And a very big welcome to all of our YouTube viewers. This is Stu Jones with the Florida Powerboat Club channel, and we have continuing coverage of our Bahamas events that took place in the 2019 cruising year. And let's just quickly recap. If some of you recall, a couple of months ago we released coverage of our Bahamas poker run, which took place in June. We took about 20 boats on a very long adventure, 6 days total, where we started in Miami and crossed over the Gulf Stream to Bimini, where we spent 2 days at Resorts World Hilton and did a lot of area cruising. Then, of course, we continued on eastbound, crossing the Bahama Bank, stopping over at Chub Key for a nice swim in the pool, a nice lunch, and a little bit of fuel as we continued now southbound. And we arrived in Nassau, Paradise Island, and stayed at Atlantis. While we were there, we did a lot of area cruising and made our way down to the Exumas. That was a really exciting trip down to Staniel Key and, of course, to the world-famous Pig Beach. So that was a 6-day adventure that crossed about 650 miles total for most of our teams. But for some of us who just want to do a quick and easy event, we have got the Fall Bimini Blast, just a 3-day shot over to the Bahamas Friday through Sunday, departing now from Haulover Marine Center. And before we get started, let's thank our Florida Powerboat Club series sponsors. The Florida Powerboat Club's Poker Run event series and these YouTube episodes are presented by Mercury Racing Wide Open and by OffLeaseOnly.com, the nation's used car destination, along with these leading marine industry sponsors. And on this very early Friday morning in September, while the boats are getting ready at Haulover Inlet, our crew is getting ready here at Florida Coast to Coast Helicopters in Pompano Beach, and they are taking off right here just after daybreak and going to be heading south to rendezvous with the boats at Haulover Inlet. We're going to have a crossing over the Gulf Stream about 55 miles today from Haulover Inlet, and we can see as we scan over the ocean now, see the weather is beautiful this morning. Sunrise was at 7:01 a.m. We always like to leave right about that time exactly. Riding on board today with Danny Merrill and his lady Diane. They're joined by Jason and Ashley Everett on this big 50-foot Han. And here's the aerial rendezvous of our milling area as the teams prepare to depart. Altogether, 12 boats registered for this run today, and that's typical for the Bahamas runs. The Bahamas Poker Run was under 20 boats, and this Fall Bimini Blast is at 12, but I think that for the fall of 2020, as we approach the dates, we'll probably get a lot more boats going because of the recent coronavirus threat, and a lot of people are going to be ready to go play. And speaking of play, that is exactly what Donald and Don Haddon are planning, because they have been at work doing disaster relief for several months, if you can believe that. They were in California during all of those forest fires that ravaged cities and caused a major amount of destruction, the worst in California's history. And they actually make a living out of going to those disaster areas and providing relief services. What exactly they provide? Well, I haven't found that out yet, but maybe on the next poker run we'll sit down over a drink. I want to welcome them because it is their first event with the club, and this is a 32-foot Belzona center console with twin Mercury Verado 350s, which is more than adequate power for this 32-foot center console, which I think is very stylish. It's called Dangerously Naughty. That's Naughty with a K, and you'll notice the purple graphics. You can't see it too well because, of course, we're backlit with the sun being in the east. And for the sake of our YouTube viewers and some of you out there that would have a comment for this, well, before you make your comment, I'm just going to have you hold back, because we feel personally as producers that this is a very artistic shot. And indeed, I think a lot of people love to get a shot of their boat with that nice sun in the background, even though it's a sunrise, not a sunset. And I think that that certainly gives some dramatic appeal, not only to the video presentation, but also for the still photography. But we did come up with a solution to that, and we decided to start taking both doors off of the back seat, and that's what we've done here. So this is at the very same time. The helicopter just shifted positions. Now Joe's shooting out the right side of the helicopter, and you can see what a difference it makes. It brings out the colors of the boat. Clearly it shows the boat much better. It just doesn't have that same dramatic or artistic appeal. And I would like to take this opportunity to introduce the rest of the crew, but quite honestly, I don't think that Donald or Don knew who all was going to make it until the last minute, so we never did get a chance to capture their names on the registration form. I know that there was a Scott and there was a Mark join in. That's about it. But for the rest of you who did join, I remember hanging out with all of you. We had a great time in the Bahamas, so welcome to the Florida Powerboat Club. And now we are catching up with Roger and Pam Anderson from the Dallas area in Texas with their 39 Nortec Mercury Verado 350s, and they are joined by their friends Greg and Angela Ray, who are also from Texas and join them on many poker runs. But I do want to thank Roger and Pam. This is a momentous event for them, I think, because they have been so active with the club. And I took a minute to look back in their file and just see that they have done upwards of 30 poker runs since as far back as 2010 when they joined on the Emerald Coast Poker Run in their 42-foot fountain. And they did that event religiously and over the years in 11, 12, 13, and right on through 19. But I think the turning point for them in their boating lifestyle was the fall of 2016 when they took delivery of this Nortec center console. They attended the Key West 2016 event in November, and then following that in 17, 18, 19, they started doing everything from Fort Myers to Tampa, Miami Boat Show Poker Run, and our summer Bahamas poker runs, which are 600 or 700 mile events going as far east as Abaco and Nassau and Exumas. I do want to thank them for their dedication and their support of the club. I know how much they enjoy powerboating, and above all, I really enjoy having them on all of our events. So Roger and Pam, thanks for joining us once again, and let's have some fun. And newcomers to the club again, so let's welcome them. This is Chris and Kristen Helt, all the way from Oklahoma with this really beautiful Mystic 4200 center console, powered by Quad Mercury 400Rs, and what a setup. Doesn't get much better than this. And one of the best parts about owning a big center console like this is having your friends along, so they're entertaining their friends Jeremy and Christina Riggs, along with Mike and Emily Beasley, and that makes for a very comfortable crew and still room for more. And again, I love this artistic shot with that sunrise in the background. Remember that Jerry is in the front seat getting some really dramatic stills, and now we switch around to the other side where we can really take a good look at this brand new, well, it's a 2017 model, but it certainly looks brand new to us here with that really cool Hollywood, Florida backdrop there. And just look at how this 4200 plows through the water and lands like it's on a down-filled pillow. But that's how great this John Kosker designed Mystic runs. A very desirable boat for a lot of people in the Florida Powerboat Club. We're starting to see more of them, and Mystic as a factory has come on board and is sponsoring the club now and becoming more active in all of our events because they know that you guys out there in the Florida Powerboat Club are going to love their product. And for you cigarette lovers out there, well, you're going to love this one. Team Another Bad Habit is Blake and Angie Olson. Came all the way from Spicewood, Texas to join us in this very classic 1998 cigarette Top Gun. That's right, guys, 98. That's a 22-year-old boat powered by Mercury 500 EFIs, and that was back when Mercury didn't even have Mercury Racing Division. It was just called Mercury High Performance. And this is where we're going to illustrate why this 38 Top Gun hull, look at that, just dancing over this light chop. And if it gets rougher, 3 to 4 footers, no problem. This is their second cigarette. Blake got involved with the club back in 2018. He showed up on the Emerald Coast Poker Run with a 35-foot Cafe Racer, also an older boat. I think it was an 89 or a 90 hull. But then he quickly stepped up to this 98 Top Gun and seems to be loving the boat. And for anyone who's ridden on a cigarette like this, the cockpit is not exactly huge, so it's comfortable for 4 to 6, and that's what they've got today. They're joined by their friends Craig and Christian from Texas, as well as Greg and Heather Riddle. And they were a fun bunch to have along on this event, and I think that Blake's comments about the smaller events, you get to know each other a lot better, and that is so true. Everyone really gelled, and for me it was a special occasion that I was celebrating my 60th birthday this weekend. Doing that with friends like Blake and his crew and all the other attendees and club members that joined us was really an exciting adventure for me, honestly, as you are about to see over this next half hour of coverage. And now we are joining the Sharnowski crew on Team Flakbait. Ryan and Julie Sharnowski from Indiana, but they also have a home in Key West. The Flakbait is a 42-foot Freeman powered by Quad Mercury 400 Verados, and we had a chance to ride with them on the Bahamas Poker Run earlier this summer. That's we, meaning my whole family, plus all of their friends. There was about 12 or 13 of us on the boat, and we didn't seem to have any problems with that. If you get a really close look at this boat, it is huge. It's a big cat with a 12.5-foot beam, a lot of room in the cockpit, big old beanbag chairs in the back seat, so lots of places for people to lounge. And introducing all the crew on board, Captain Mike, Ryan's wife Julie, Kent and Eddie, Bob, Angela, Jared, and Nikki all on board and ready for a fun weekend in Bimini. These Freeman 42 cats are becoming very popular with the offshore fishing community. Jimmy Buffett just built one with a custom tuna tower. Now we're going to join Darius Cereza and his lady Amanda on this 38-foot Donzi, and he has been very active with the club. It says Mercury Racing 525s, but no way. He's got these pumped up to over 800 horsepower and some beefed up drives to go along with it as he plows through the waves. Darius is a hardcore offshore guy. If you can't tell by now, he's attended a lot of events with the club, starting off with the Key West 2017. Since then, he did the Winter Poker Run, Miami Boat Show Poker Run, Tampa, and several events over the last 2 years. But there is a first time for everything, and this is the first time he's headed out to the Bahamas with us. Looks like they're having a fun ride, and the crew is getting very excited for this 3-day escape to paradise. And it's our only MTI registered for this event. This is Tom Toto from New Jersey. Team All In is a 42-foot MTI center console powered by Quad Mercury Racing 400Rs. I love the simple graphics, the silver sides, and the reds and the blacks nicely blended. I think this is a beautiful boat. One thing about these 42 MTIs, they're so stylish, but there's no two that are alike. Every single one is custom built to an owner's specifications. That includes the graphics, the interior, the flooring, the seating, and all of the electronics. And just look at how this boat handles so nicely through these light swells. And of course the seas are going to build. You look offshore, we're only about maybe 3 to 5 miles offshore at this point, and that was by design because our helicopter can't go very far offshore. So we came down the coastline before we turned on that eastbound heading to Bimini. Tom Toto is a longtime member with the Florida Powerboat Club. He goes back to 2005 when he attended his very first event, which was the Miami Boat Show Poker Run. Back then, he had an Outer Limits 42 Legacy, and since then he's owned a number of different Outer Limits, all V-bottoms, and all with big power capable of going well over 100 miles an hour. So this center console was a bit of a departure for Tom, but like many of us, he likes to bring his friends along and his family. So today, he's got a big crew on board, including his son Alex joined him, another gentleman named Alex Kuhn, Pete Mazzo, who's a former Outer Limits owner and did events with the club, Doug and David Willey, and of course Frank Esposito on board, another one of our active members with the club. I know some of you are looking down and saying, well, geez, I love this boat. How much would it cost for me to get one of these? I'd like to find out how to get one. Well, guys, we at the Florida Powerboat Club, we don't rent them and we certainly don't sell them, but we do know where to get them. You can contact the dealer, which is Performance Boat Center. They have a location in South Florida and in Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri. In some cases, they can find you a high-quality pre-owned MTI 42, or possibly you can start from scratch and build your very own custom MTI. Now looking off on the horizon, we see the city of Miami, and that indicates that we have made our turn to the east, and we're going to start heading offshore with a direct heading for Bimini. From the exit of Government Cut in Miami, it's exactly 49 miles. And we're back once again with Christopher and Kristen Helt from Oklahoma in this 42-foot Mystic Team Helt Racer. And we can all see now that the seas have built just a little bit. We're now heading into the chop. And this is the point where we will now witness a change in the wave conditions because we're getting more into the Gulf Stream as we get it to that 8 to 10 miles offshore. And this is why you want to be in a good rugged offshore powerboat hull when you head out into the Gulf Stream and start getting 20 to 25 miles offshore. When the winds are out of the south, it's not so bad, but when they're out of the east or if there's any north component, that's when you're going to get these choppy Gulf Stream conditions, and you always have to be prepared for that. Now, the only way you can possibly get around that is to leave a little bit earlier. We always suggest to leave before daybreak, which in this case would have been at about 6:15, 6:30. The sunrise was exactly at 7:01, and we didn't leave till a little bit after that. So it doesn't take very long with the winds for the seas to build. I think that Chris has got the boat dialed in perfectly for these conditions, and you can see that he's allowing the bow of the boat to absorb the initial impact of these waves, and that's going to make for a better ride for all of the crew. The other thing that I want to point out is that most people in these conditions would want to be sitting in the back of the boat because clearly that's where the least amount of movement is, at the stern and not in the bow. So when you get into these conditions, regardless of what kind of boat you have, it's always good to be sitting in the aft section of the boat, not sitting up front. And here is a sight that you can get used to when you're crossing the Gulf Stream. Of course, these are major shipping channels with a lot of traffic, every kind of freighter imaginable, from these big oil tankers and cargo ships to roll-on, roll-off vessels to big container ships and even cruise ships. It's all out here in these shipping channels, and you just have to be aware of it because they're cruising along at a fairly good clip. And you never want to cross over their bow, ever. Unless you're at least a couple of miles away. So you can see that worked out fine as we're crossing through the wake of this freighter. And one other thing I do want to mention is that sometimes you'll get tow rigs or tugs that are towing a vessel or a big huge barge, and there's a towing cable that's between the two of them that could be as many as a few hundred yards long, and you don't see the cable. For the most part it's submerged, but that's not a place you want to boat. And so, as I say, just stay good and clear of all of this big ocean freighter traffic. You don't want to go anywhere near these boats. Now, the second caution I'm going to throw out there is that trying to maintain a straight line when you don't really have a reference point to other boats is something that happens quite often. I can say almost on every event. As you can see here, the blue boat is starting to sort of lean over to port, and the other boat decides to just pull right off plane and cross over behind. So this is the kind of thing that can happen easily. And there are two things you can do to avoid this. One is always drive your boat on a solid heading. So be mindful of your GPS and make sure that number is consistent at all times. The second thing is to rely on your crew. You know, you don't have the peripheral vision that you need to know what's coming along beside you on either side, and you kind of get mesmerized by the horizon and you're just driving forward. So it's nice to have your crew members or your first mate always looking around and saying, hey, there's one on the port, there's one on the starboard. So that way you're just mindful of who's around you at all times. Some amazing shots of DJ here and his crew in this 38 Donzi ZR competition. The boat just looks fantastic. We do apologize for the lack of audio. We did not have our videographer trained yet to do the audio capture. There's a technique that we use with the microphone and wiring it and tying it to the seat post of the helicopter seat. That wasn't done here, so that's why we're not getting the loud roar of this 38-foot Donzi. So we can promise that in some of the other videos we're going to be capturing much better audio, guys. So just FYI, before you go and make those comments, we know as producers, believe me, we know how important the audio capture is. But sometimes when we have new videographers who are up in the helicopter for their first time, it doesn't always happen. And the other point about audio as we join Cindy Hudson here in her 43 Midnight is that these outboard boats don't make any noise. These Mercury Verado 350s, 400Rs, and even the 450s are very quiet motors, and that's why we're not really hearing this Midnight Moves. It's a 43 Midnight Express quad motors. It's a 2018 43 open model, and it's their first event with Florida Powerboat Club, so let's welcome them. The owner of the boat is Cindy Hudson from Fort Lauderdale, and she has her captain, Captain Jeff Mitchell, at the helm today. She's also joined by her friends Alan and Liz Usher, and Emily Womack is on board. So they're going to have a good time this weekend. Love the coloring of this boat as we now turn and get some nice sun on it. The black bottom, silver sides, and the blue top. It's a nice color combination that I've never seen on a Midnight Express before. I think they did a wonderful job on this boat. It is just beautiful. And this is a great opportunity to thank Midnight Express from Miami for being a continuing sponsor with the club. And these 43 Opens have become the most popular Midnight Express model that we've seen on a lot of our poker runs. The model we're showing you now is very similar to Night Moves. It's a 2016 43 Open with the same power setup, quad Mercury 350 Verados. Look at this beautiful color-matched custom interior, triple Garmin chart plotters at the helm, seating for 3 at the helm, and one of the largest seating configurations in its class. Midnight Express has this boat at the factory, asking price $595,000. This boat is ready for delivery, so go online or give them a call. So one more time now with Roger and Pam Anderson all the way from Colleyville, Texas, which is near Dallas, enjoying their boating lifestyle with this Nortec 390 center console powered by triple Mercury 350 Verados. This is a center console model for Nortec that is wildly popular. And I can say that because I know they've already built over 250 of this 390 model. So thank you to everyone at Nortec High Performance in North Fort Myers and Cape Coral for their continued support of the Florida Powerboat Club after all these years. Guys, you build a beautiful product, and with new models coming out all the time, it just keeps getting better. And it appears that at about this point, the helicopter has reached its maximum distance that it can travel or fly offshore, so they're going to have to turn around and head back to their home port as we continue this trip eastbound to Bimini, and about 35 miles left in the trip as we get right into the heart of the Gulf Stream waters. So let's bid farewell to our Florida coast-to-coast helicopters R44 and our Florida Powerboat Club photo and video team. Well, that was a great crossing, and here we are now arriving in Bimini Harbor, and look at the beautiful water. We have just cleared customs with all the teams, and we're heading out now for our Friday day trip. There's Miss Jackie. We're riding along on this big 50-foot Hahn, a pirate's life for me. There's the Jones boys riding along, Max on the left, Tyler on the right. And at the helm, well, that's Captain Danny Merrill, with his first mate, Diane. And they have also invited their friends, Jason and Ashley Everett, who are joining us for the weekend. And everyone is in the Bimini spirit as we head out now to Honeymoon Harbor, which is about 8 miles south of Bimini. So it's only about a 10 or 12 minute boat ride. That's what I like about Bimini. There's so many cool places to anchor and hang out and have fun in water activities without having to go too far from the main harbor. And of course, we had our regular welcoming crew here, this friendly nurse shark. And when I say friendly, well, nobody got eaten while we were there, so that's good enough for us. And of course, the stingrays, and that's the reason we're here today, is to feed the stingrays. We were surprised to see as many new nurse sharks coming into the mix. And this is not the location where anyone should really be doing any controlled feeding. In those solo cups are little bits of bait that we cut up, but we should be in shallow water, knee deep is the best. So closer up on the beach is the best place to feed the stingrays, and it's a great experience, and nothing will ever go wrong if you just follow some simple guidelines. So if we look closer to the beach, and by the way, it was so beautiful and so calm in here today, it was easy for everyone to anchor. And this shot here now would illustrate the best place to do the feeding. You can see in the shallow water there, ankle to knee deep. The stingrays will come in and can be easily fed, and the sharks will stay away. Of course, we are speeding up this segment for production value, but let me just say that about 2 hours is all you need here at Honeymoon Harbor. And for what it's worth, they do not like it when you get up onto the land or spend any time on the actual island. That is private property, and the management over at the Cat Key Yacht Club, which is just south of there, have informed us that they don't want anybody hanging out on the island. And we respect those boundaries, so we're okay with that. So it's time now to get back in the boats and start heading northbound for that short ride back into Bimini. And you can see from this shot just how nice the conditions are now. And luckily for all of us, that continued right through Saturday. We had a little bit of free time on Saturday morning, so the Jones family rented a golf cart and we decided to head into town for a little sightseeing and a chance to experience some of the local Bahamian culture. And I was very happy to see that once we exited Resorts World Bimini, the Kings Highway was finally paved and made for a nice, smooth ride into town. When you come to Bimini, you've got to rent a golf cart so that you can cruise around town. It's the only way that you can get off of the resort to go into town and say hi to the locals and do a little shopping, maybe have some fresh conch, pick up some groceries for the room, whatever. So you rent a golf cart at $75 a day, and they don't check driver's licenses down here, so you can allow your 13-year-old to be a big shot and drive the golf cart on a main highway. You're on the Kings Highway going through Porgy Bay right now on our way to Allenstown for breakfast. There's Jackie and Tyler in the back there, and it's kind of a ritual. You can't come to Bimini, Resorts World Bimini, without getting off property, going out and saying hi to the locals, and this is the best way to do it. I believe it was about 1992 when I first visited Bimini, and I remember that one of the things I had to do was go on a parts search on a Sunday to go find some parts for the boat we had so we could get home safely, and it gave me a chance to get out and explore the island, and that was on a bicycle at the time. and since then it has never gotten old. Aside from the road being paved all the way from the south end to the north end, the landscape has really not ever changed. Stewart's Conch Shop is the same as it ever was, and some of these little shops and boutiques and corner stores are owned and operated by the same people that operated them 30 years ago. Now, the one thing about coming in September, you still have summer-like conditions, so the boat trip over and the climate is very similar to what you'd experience in June or July or early August. But there's not a lot of people here because September things kind of drop off. And I think that's a good thing because it gives us more of an opportunity to get cleared through customs and immigration when we first arrive. Makes it easier to check into the hotel. And I'm finding here that even just driving around town, there's fewer golf carts and fewer people out this morning. And we were able to get in a lot of sightseeing in less than an hour. But it's now time to get back to the resort because we have another boating trip scheduled for today. Well, back out on the water now, joining the group as we head out for today's day trip is going to be the Sapona Shipwreck is going to be our destination as we make our way out through Bimini Harbor. And this is going to be probably one of the shortest boat rides that anyone can expect. It's really only about a 15 or 20 minute boat ride to get out to the shipwreck, and that's just taking your time. But it's very scenic. Of course, South Bimini now to the left here, the port side, North Bimini to the starboard side. And it's right about at this point where the two islands overlap. That's where the idle speed zone begins if you're coming into port. So now as we depart port, we can get back up on plane and run around the backside of South Bimini, and pretty soon we'll be arriving at the ship. Of course, there are a lot of other things that you can do around here. I know that Flackbait, they love to fish, so they could easily have gone fishing this morning. You don't have to go very far to get some big game. And some of our club members who do fish, they've done that before and come home with some really nice prize catch at the end of the day. And I think this experience of seeing this water for some of our guests for their very first time was just breathtaking. I mean, none of these images are enhanced. This is the true color of the water as we now arrive at the Sapona Shipwreck. It's actually quite easy to find. You don't even really need a GPS. It can be spotted just south of South Bimini. It's not very crowded today, so we can anchor wherever we wish, but it's ideal to be close to the ship so you don't have to fight the currents swimming back and forth.
Riding aboard the 50-foot Han with Danny and Diane, it's a pirate's life for me, and no better place than at a shipwreck, the Sapona, which washed up here on these shoals back about 1930-ish and has been since a tourist attraction. Aside from target practice for World War II ace pilots who would fly over here and use the Sapona to fire their missiles off and blow big holes in the side of the ship. That was many, many years ago, almost 90 years ago, but in the meantime, it's been a great tourist attraction for boaters and snorkelers and scuba divers. We're in about 18 feet of water. You can look and see that this ship is 100% made out of concrete and steel rebar, which has stood the test of time. It's obviously coming apart over the years, but it still is a solid structure which you can dive into, snorkel into, and you can climb up the seawall here up the side of the ship and jump off the bow. So we're going to have a few adventurous people today that are going to do that. So let's hang out and check out the party.
There's a lot to do here, whether you just want to hang out on the boat and lounge around, have a drink, and enjoy the sun, or if you want to get in the water and head into the ship, you really should be prepared. First of all, mask, fins, and snorkel are an absolute must. Of course, the salt water will sting your eyes, so you've got to have a good mask. And the fins are important because there is a lot of current, and a lot of people get caught off guard here by swimming into the ship and then realizing they've got to come back out towards or into the current, and that can be very, very tiresome, and a lot of people get in trouble and need the assistance of a stronger swimmer or a rope, and that's why those fins are so important. Going to tie up to this Freeman 42. There's Julie and Ryan and their crew on board Team Flackbait, and we had so much fun riding with them just a couple of months earlier on the June Bahamas poker run. And for those of us who are just a little more agile and a little more adventurous, there's always the opportunity to climb up the side of the Sapona. There's a place to do it. I can't say that it's the safest thing to do because it's an old rope ladder, and your bare hands and bare feet are coming in contact with this twisted, rusted metal and the concrete to get up the side of the ship. But you only live once, and if you can muster up the strength to do it and the courage to get up on the top of the ship, well, jumping down is half the fun. Just one more of those cool things that you can put on your Bahamas bucket list, and it's so nice to be able to check that box, say, I conquered the Sapona. Another successful adventure in Bimini, and plenty more to do, but we're just running out of time. We got to head back to the hotel now because we have some more important stuff to do, like hang out at the pool and have a really good happy hour. That's part of the plan here now as we get on board now with Danny and Diane on this big 50-foot Han. And what a beast this boat is. 8 of us on board, but probably room for about 18 of us comfortably. This boat is so huge. But fun to hang out with Danny and Diane. Had a wonderful time with them and with all of our boating friends. Back here poolside, Miss Jackie set up a nice party for us. And I can't think of a better way to celebrate my 60th birthday than with my family and some of my close boating friends. And of course, I got a chance to meet a lot of new friends, and I just hope that all of you can return when we get back on the water after this coronavirus mess and have some more fun.
Happy birthday, Stu!
And as this episode hits YouTube, we are waiting for the Bahamas government to open up the country, and we do have these 2 events scheduled. The Bahamas Poker Run taking place June 19th to 24th with 2 nights in Bimini and 3 nights at Atlantis, Paradise Island. And then later in the year, this same event, the September Fall Bimini Blast, returning to Resorts World Bimini, September the 18th to the 20th. So fingers crossed, everyone. Let's hope that this pandemic settles down and we can get back to our normal lives and enjoy some boating with the members of the Florida Powerboat Club. So as we get back on our normal schedule here on YouTube, we'll be back with the Key West Poker Run 2019 edition with episode 7 as we catch up with our Poker Run teams heading southbound through the Florida Keys. We hope that all of you out there are staying safe through these troubled times while we endure this coronavirus pandemic, and let's just hope that our government officials can get this thing under control and allow us to get back to normal life soon. Until we do, hang in there, guys. We're going to keep these episodes coming to you here on YouTube. We ask you to share these episodes with your friends. Be sure to subscribe and always click that notification bell so you get all the updates every time a new episode is released. You can follow us on our club website at flpowerboat.com for information about membership and upcoming events. And of course, you can check us out on social media. On Facebook, we're at Florida Powerboat Club, and you can view us on these Instagram pages and follow us on Twitter. This is Stu Jones from the FPC Studios in Pompano Beach, along with producer Ryan McCoy. Thanks for watching, guys, and we hope to see you guys very soon. If you do get a chance to get out boating, remember to be safe, keep your social distancing, and if you want to go fast, remember, that's the time to put on that life jacket. Take care, guys. See you soon. The Florida Powerboat Club's Poker Run event series and these YouTube episodes are presented by Mercury Racing Wide Open and by offleaseonly.com, the nation's used car destination, along with these leading marine industry sponsors.